the negative self-talk that I'm like, you should know better. And the lack of grace that I have been given myself, and like the intentional compassion. It's like this tug of war of like, you should know better. No, it's okay. Like it's just going back and forth, it's like a broken record that cannot stop right now. It's
You
so interesting.
you ready to drop in?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I want to introduce something. A lot of our listeners are probably, maybe some of them have heard this and some of them haven't. Um, I want to introduce one of the tools that I have used, especially in the very beginning when I started practicing my mindfulness and I started practicing um, like working with that voice in my head. Um, because that voice in me used to be like a drill sergeant screaming at the top of its lungs, um, dictating like how loathsome of a person I was, how awful I was. So, um, have you ever heard of Ho'oponopono?
From you.
Yes. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, Ho'oponopono is based on the idea that when we come together in community, we bring our grievances, we bring our challenges, and we make it right. We make it right by accepting, um, by coming together and coming to a place of truth and grace. And so, when we say, "I'm sorry, I forgot," it's basically like, "I'm sorry, I forgot that I'm a divine being, that I'm an intentional creator, and um, please forgive me." Like, forgive myself, asking for self forgiveness as well as forgiveness of the perception that someone outside of us has done us harm. And then thank you, because all things can be healed through gratitude. And then I love you, because all things are healed through love. So when we say, "I'm sorry," we're apologizing for forgetting that we are divine creators. We've forgotten our power. Sorry, I forgot my power to be different, to be in alignment with my true self. So oftentimes when that voice starts coming up, I will use this practice and start chanting in my head. And I kind of go back and forth. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. I always start with I love you, because that's where it should always start, right? So I will start chanting that in my head when that voice gets so painful. Because I had times where that voice would take me to my knees.
Mm-hmm.
It would whip me raw. So I would just start chanting, I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. Breathe. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. Breathing in. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. And then just pause. And if you need to keep going with it, you can kind of have that like the mantra in the back of your head. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. That voice has been there to keep us safe. And it's just been misguided. And the programming that we have in our subconscious within our bodies is just doing what it learned when it was a child. It's doing what our parents learned when they were children. It's doing what their parents learned. And so to break that habit, we have to not try to eradicate that voice, but to try and hear and understand that that voice is within us because it has been trying to keep us safe. Don't do that. The last time you did that, you got yelled at. Don't do that. The last time you did that, you got hurt. Don't do that. The last time you did that, you had this horrible thing happen. So it's always trying to keep us safe, but in the process of that, it keeps us the same. It keeps us from changing. And so to be able to change, to transform, we have to find kindness for that voice and understand that it's just been trying to keep us safe. And when we're in that reactive mode, instead of responding, we're reacting, it's coming from the body. When we do things or say things that are directed by that automatic reaction, it's coming from a place of wanting to keep us safe. It's like, I know we're still talking about like sex and creativity, and our subconscious bodies have all this programming. There was a time when my husband and I first got together that, like for me, having had a past of sexual assault, of giving my body to try and get love, if I was listening to my body was like, no, no, thank you. Like, you're not safe, you're not trustworthy. But I overrode that. But it would show up in my body when I was sleeping, because when I'm sleeping, our conscious minds are off. When we sleep, the body is actually still awake, but the mind goes to sleep. It is processing. So when my husband, if I was snoring, he would reach over, and if he even got anywhere near my breast or my vulva, I would take it. He's told me many stories of me taking his hand and moving it away. He's said, like, you actually like hit my hand, and I don't remember any of it. So when we actively start slowing down the voice, because we can't just like, oh, let me go catatonic to stop the voice, right? The practice is meditation, because meditation is the opposite of sleeping. When we sleep, body is awake, it's on alert, its senses are in like check mode just to keep us safe in case a tiger were to come into the cave. But when we're in meditation, it's time for the body to rest, and the mind is what's on duty, or the consciousness is what's on duty. But sometimes it takes a little while for us to let the mind unravel that story, so that our consciousness can let the body rest, say, I'm still on duty, I'm watching, I'll keep you safe. And when the body has that opportunity to let down, then all the stories that have been embedded within our skin are what start to rise. So that's a little bit about the premise of like one of the many tools that we can use is using the Hooponopono chant to just kind of slow down that brain, that mind that wants to tell us these things, and then just like realize that part of what we're working towards is coming into relationship with that mind instead of vilifying it.
I feel like you just said something that is so recognizable right now. This feeling of a letdown, like when you're nursing, like that release of pressure. I feel like that's what I'm experiencing right now. Just like this huge emotional release.
Yeah.
Such an, like, as soon as you said that word, I was like, oh, that's what I think I'm feeling.
And it comes in layers, right?
Yeah.
As we're creating a new being, just like when we create a baby, we're creating a new being. It starts out with energy and then it has to build. And part of the process of like what we're all doing together is deconstructing that old build and bringing it back to truth, bringing it back to love, bringing it back to acceptance, in order so that we can then rebuild it again from a place of unconditional love instead of the programming that's been there. And each little bit of a letdown, each time we have that release, we start working into those layers, we start unwinding the wound.
I think what you just said too, I'm like, finding truth or questioning truth, when my voice in my head says you should know better, I used to
Right.
think that was true. I used to really believe wholeheartedly, as a grown adult, you should know better.
But the
And
body doesn't know.
I'm totally like in so much more compassion, because I believe when you know better, you do better, right? Like, we can't have these expectations of should with reality, right? Like, I reacted in a certain way for whatever reason is proof that I don't know better, right? That I don't have control, or I have my own wounds that need to be healed or whatever. And so I just think there's so much grace around disproving that lie that we should know better. It's just bullshit that we have been taught our entire life that we should know better.
Mm-hmm. If you were to look at, like, think about our leaders, think about the people that, like, whether it be movie stars or people in politics or something like that, if you were to look at them through the lens that they're all just a bunch of big children in adult
Mhm.
bodies, like that gives you a whole entirely different perspective when you realize that people are just running around in their child bodies or in their child energy and the
Mhm.
programming that's in their bodies as adults,
Yep.
just like
The
everybody
adult
else.
skin suit.
Exactly.
Mm.
Yeah.
That seems very like sci-fi.
Hmm.
I just came back from Disney, so everything is very like animated and Avatar.
Also, too, Christy, like giving yourself, now that you've come back, now you have like the quietness. I don't know if it's for you, but when I had the quietness is when the voice in my head got really, really loud. Like,
So
I think
loud.
the busyness, our busyness, however we want to categorize that, by working a lot, by doing a lot of things, by going to a lot of places, it's a way to quiet the mind unconsciously, right?
Yes.
But now that you've really been conscious, trying to allow more space for yourself.
Well, and I just came back from this like real hustle, right? Like, no space to myself other than just literally in the shower, right? And I noticed this week I have resisted all quiet time. Even going to bed at night, I'm like staying up watching TV, like just kind of back into old programming habits of avoidance. And today, I think it's just like I've hit that wall of like, your body needs to rest, or it's going to start resting without your permission.
That's what happens when we break down. Either we get sick,
Yeah.
or like whether it's a temporary sickness or something a little bit more shocking, something a little bit more like, holy crap, what just happened? Like cancer diagnosis or some other medical diagnosis, right? It's the body saying, no,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
How do you feel now compared to how you felt when we first started talking?
Better. When we first started talking, I just felt like all of it was like trapped right here. And just kind of allowing the tears to flow and just being present with it and listening to Tanya's voice. Like I couldn't say the words yet, but just hearing it, it was just like really soothing. So it's like I feel safe. Yeah. I'm not going to promise I'm not going to cry again, but
Is
it's
that
me. I'm showing up as me today, ladies.
is that a promise any one of us would ever
No, that's
ask you to
true.
make?
I know.
I cried through the
Yeah.
entire. I cried myself to sleep night before last, and then I ended up crying through the entire night, as witnessed by y'all, because you had like you probably woke up to a gazillion long messages for me that night. But yeah, like let it
Yeah.
flow, girl.
And I just think too, like something that I want to share with other people that they might not get to see and witness of this small group that we've created here is that we don't have like, okay, so Tanya, you and I are kind of in this, we're in very different stories, right? But
Mhm.
pretty emotionally challenged or emotionally vulnerable positions.
Mhm.
And I love the space that you all hold for me to say, like, you can do you, and I don't have this obligation of checking in with you right now. Right? Like,
Mhm.
you're trusting me to take care of me and to come back in when I'm willing and ready.
Yeah.
And I feel the same way too, right? Like in my old version of Christy, it would have been like, pull yourself together because you have this obligation and you need to go listen to these videos and you need to be present for these other people. And current version of Christy is like, no, right now you need to be held.
Mm.
And here's this group that you can go and share. And when they're ready, they get to come and hold you back, right? It's like this beautiful nest that we have
Mhm.
created within each other. And I'm just like so grateful for that space. And I feel like I just want everybody to know what it feels like to have that because it's totally possible.
That's what we're creating here, right?
Yeah.
So that it can start spreading like wildfire out
Yeah.
beyond us.
Yeah.
Knowing that it's
Something.
safe for you just to be.
Yeah. And you don't have to like, this is like, again, my habit has always been like just push it down so you can be present for other people. And this might be a result of that because I was with a group of people and my needs were not even on the radar. Right. So this might be a result of that. Like I was squashing my own needs for about 4 days straight. And now my needs are like, hey, it's my turn. Are you going to listen to me?
You went back to childhood, right? You went back to
Yeah.
exactly what it was like.
Yeah. Serve everybody else, keep the peace. Like, yeah, I totally stepped back into that role.
Yeah.
Yes.
The ability, I mean, we're all different. We've got two manifest generators, you and I. Erin is a generator, Brenda is a projector.
Should that be on our name, Christy Hankey / Manny Jen?
Right. We have, and even within those different types, there's different types within those types, like variations. You and I are very similar that we need to verbalize.
Mhm.
And when we start squashing that, Erin needs to verbalize too. She needs a little more patience, like,
I just
and
need time to, yeah. Mhm.
yeah. And so like one of the things that I have found that our space allows me to create is I can express myself as who I am, and I have zero fear of being judged, of you guys being like, I can't believe she just said that. Like, it wasn't just but maybe a week or two ago where I was talking about dildos and sex and various processes that I was exploring with pleasure and things like that myself, and it was just like, yeah, just drop it in, and
Yeah.
I'm not looking for a response or a reaction or anything from anybody. It's just like, nope, these are the things I need to talk about right now. So like, we're all in different places, and we honor and respect that with each other. And that is what we're trying to create for others as well. But we have to be that model first.
Mm-hmm.
We have to be that model of being safe to just be ourselves, to express ourselves. And you and I very much have that need to verbally express ourselves, as evidenced by like the amount of airtime that Brenda and Aaron take.
And knowing that Brenda was like, I want to go first, and I just came in hot.
No,
I'm like, here we go. I'm so sorry, Brenda.
No,
It was
no, I
kind
didn't
of
say
out
I needed
of,
to go first.
well, not bad. Like, yes. I think
Yeah.
you were excited. I think that's the impression that I got. You were excited to share today. And then my emotions just like bulldoze down the door.
But this is so important, right? Because this is what we do. We have something that we need to take care of, or we have on the agenda, or we have.
Mhm.
And then how many of us, I think all of us here and like in the entire population, well, we don't have time for our emotions right now. Like, we got to
Yes.
take care of this.
Oh my gosh, yes.
This is what we scheduled to talk about. This is what we are supposed to be, like, should be
Who
doing, blah,
cares?
blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah.
And
Yeah.
this is what I was texting in the group, right? This is the slowing down to speed up. Like, this is the, how do you actually do that? You
Mhm.
just fucking cry. You
Mhm.
just fucking feel whatever you need to feel in that moment. And then how, what is, not how long did it take, but what this is, we've been talking
Yeah.
for 30 minutes, and now look at not that before it was bad and now it's better,
Mhm.
right? But just look at how that emotion has passed through you, and you've felt it, and it's moved through your body,
Yeah.
right? Versus if you would have kept quiet, let Brenda, you probably wouldn't have been present. You couldn't have
No.
participated. You would have been
No.
holding back crying,
Well, and I think too, there's so much, it's a vulnerable space always, right? To just allow those emotions to be present. But what I'm seeing is that almost every single time that I do allow myself to express openly, it's relatable, right? Like trusting that there's value behind it, whether it is just for my own benefit or someone else's. But, one of the biggest things that I have had trouble with in the past was like not wanting to take time, not wanting to take space, right? Like being too much. And to know that there's value in that too much, right? Like this might not have been like what we were thinking we were going to talk about today, but like it presents a real valuable topic.
I have a
discussion.
feeling that it's all going to intertwine with what Brenda actually
Of course.
brought in today.
Of course.
Different, but I wanted to respond back to Christy and say, this is no space to stay small.
Right. And and that is something, and I think I try to share that as much as possible, because that is a space that I'm so grateful for, because
Me too.
it hasn't always been honored in past relationships and past situations. So, and whether that was just in me not receiving that back or what, but I feel really safe to be.
It's not been safe, at least not for me. So
Yeah.
this is something I treasure more
Yeah.
than you guys will ever know.
Thank you.
Are we ready?
Yeah.
You feel
Okay.
good?
Mm,
Okay. Do you feel complete?
mhm.
How about you, Erin?
Mhm.